Grab your spears and raise your tomahawks, Seminole fans. You are watching and listening to The Warpath, the weekly collaboration between theosceola.com and warchant.com. My name is Nick Carlisle, staff writer for the Osceola. That is Matt Lassiere, recruiting writer for Warchant, who's a little bit grumpy today because he went to go out and get Whataburger and they absolutely screwed up his order. So if Matt looks a little bit off today on this edition of The Warpath, blame the water. Is it the one on Tennessee Street? Did you go to the one on Tennessee Street, or did you go to a different?
No, I go to the one right by my house on is it Lake Bradford? Is that the street? Yeah, Lake Bradford.
I don't know where you live.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
But I go to that one.
Give it away.
It was,
hey, if you want to triangulate where Matt is based on his location.
It was, and I waited a while for it too. I think I texted you. I was like, "Hey man, might be late to show because Whataburger's slow." I actually was waiting. It was really fast when I got there. And I got up to the window within 2 minutes. And then I sat at the window for 20.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that sounds like a Whataburger experience.
It does. And that's everywhere. That's Texas too. That's everywhere. Yeah. Whataburger's slow, man.
Yeah. So Matt's a little cranky today. We're gonna try to keep him on our best behavior here on today's edition of the Warpath. It's been frankly, it's been a quiet week for recruiting. I mean, that's going to happen with the bye week coming at the time that it did for Florida State in general, but kind of nationally, it's been a bit quiet for recruiting. There have been some big stories. Don't get me wrong. We're going to cover it all today on the Warpath, but in terms of fast news, breaking news, not a whole lot to write home about that. Yeah. But we got a couple of things to talk about today. Why don't we start with Jay Timmons, Florida State defensive back commit, Matt, who I certainly think he's probably one of the better defensive backs, like an underrated defensive back in this country. Like obviously the cowbell or the big fish in this defensive back class for Florida State is Chuck Kennan. I think everybody will agree that that's your 5-star talent. But in terms of underrated talent, I really, really like Jay Timmons, and it seems like other schools are starting to pick up on that. Timmons getting an Ohio State offer earlier this week is undecided right now in terms of whether or not that's going to turn into a visit somewhere, but it's always a blessing in disguise. You get offers for some of those bigger schools. Florida State definitely has a prospect that's coveted by the rest of the nation. Obviously, Ohio State is the defending national champions. That's going to be alluring for any prospect, Matt. What are you kind of hearing on Timmons and if this offer shakes things up enough with him to where he may entertain Ohio State and go on a visit somewhere during the fall?
Yeah, I think at first it was intriguing, and it's always going to be intriguing, right? Like that's pretty normal when you get an Ohio State offer, and you're like, this is where people on the boards were freaking out about it. Like, oh, they were late. Don't even listen to it. Don't do this. It's like, dude, it's Ohio State. Put yourself in a 16 or sorry, not 16. He's probably 17-year-old, 18 year. Yeah. Put yourself in a kid's shoes, and you just had the defending national champions call you and offer you out of nowhere. Now, I wouldn't call him underrated anymore. He shot up the Rivals rankings. I think he's 28th overall in the Rivals rankings. So
really,
yeah, maybe the Buckeyes just watch those rankings. They're huge Charles Powers fans, and they just listen to his rankings. That's how they offer kids. But it's going to. And I texted him the night of an hour, maybe 30 minutes after he got the offer, like, hey, do you think this affects anything for you? And he talked to Steve Wiltfong and then talked to Michael Langston later on. I think at first it was like, wow, man, like that's cool. Like obviously that's going to get your attention. Defending national champs, it's the best team in the country. And yeah, and they're ranked number 1 right now. But I think as he slept on it and stuff like that, started to cool down a little bit. He told our Michael Langston that he was still like Florida State, and I think it's going to be a hard one to pull out of FSU just considering the legacy prospect. And he was actually born in Tallahassee, and that had some there's a lot more heartstrings than just the best team and the most money. So, and he actually had to earn that Florida State offer, right? They made him come to camp and said, this is your last chance to earn the offer, and he got it. So I think that makes him like Florida State more. I just think, I think at first, again, any kid in his shoes is going to be like, wow, like, I probably should go look, but as it settles down, I think he's a Nole. Doesn't have a tattoo, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously born in Tallahassee, currently plays high school football in Pennsylvania, so obviously much closer to Ohio State. That definitely plays a little bit of a factor in it, but I agree. I think that this is probably one where he sticks. I mean, you and I went through the entire list of commits. What was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Matt? And we both felt like Timmons was a good chance to stick. And obviously, the Ohio State offer comes in and changes enough to where you, like we've kind of been saying, you perk your ears a little bit at it, kind of see if that changes things, but it doesn't sound like it does initially. I don't know about you, but when you watched Jay Timmons at that camp over the summer, you see flexibility in his hips for one. I think he's very good at turning and very, very good in pursuit. I'm actually kind of surprised.
He's clearly one of the best in that camp, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I'm kind of surprised though to see him as high as 20. Like that is borderline 5-star in the Rivals ranking.
It is 5-star, but they don't. It is 5-star, but they don't like. They slow roll the 5 stars out. Like I think right now it's like the top 15 are 5 stars. At the end of the rankings, the top 32 are because it's based off the draft. So I would consider it a 5-star ranking because it is. They just don't call it that until the end.
Yeah. So hey, we don't think there's going to be anything coming of it. Doesn't sound like that there's going to be any movement coming there. But I don't know. You and I can agree that we're fans of the kids too. Like just as some person, you want to see them enjoy their recruitment process. You want to see.
And Jay's a great kid, and I think
awesome things happen really to them. Yeah, exactly. So moving on here, and we kind of talked about this last week, so we're not going to touch too much on it. But Florida State's pursuit of another running back. We talked last week about, and we have talked a couple of times on the show already about where Florida State may want to go with that. Reported last week that Derek Cooper, Florida State is picking up some momentum with him. They're catching his eye a little bit more. Reports are that he could be here for the Miami game. And then you have Carson Baker, who's obviously committed to Florida, where Billy Napier is now off to a 1-2 start. And that seat is scorching hot again. And they still have 3 or 4 games in that gauntlet of hell that they're going to need to go through. There's going to be some uncomfortable discussions around the recruiting class in Gainesville right now. And by all intents and purposes, Carson Baker is, I think, one that a lot of people, including us on the show, including Michael Langston, reporters on other beats, have kind of circled Carson Baker as the person that may be the one to watch as we kind of get further into this season. And it's not, I don't know necessarily that it's a discussion about what's more likely or what we prefer. I guess we could go through both of them, but where do you stand on the Cooper versus Baker? I don't want to call it a battle because that's not what it is, but in terms of guys that they're going after, those two seem to be like the big fish that they're still hunting. Where, if there is one, I guess let's start with what's more likely. If there's one that's more likely, who is it right now for Florida State to be able to flip?
Yeah, I think I've kind of shifted on this one. I was big on Cooper last week, but as more information comes in, because at that point last week, Mike Norvell was taking a visit down to Chaminade and all that kind of stuff. We believe some coaches went and saw Carson as well over the bye week. And I think the needle is moving more towards Carson being the very likely pick. Just from talking to people around the recruitment, it went from very much like, yeah, comfortable with Florida. Now you can't be comfortable with Florida, no matter what. You can't be. You need to start looking at your options because it's the likely thing is Billy gets fired and it's looking like 2-10 for the Gators. Like legitimately, that's not a joke. Like that's not us being a biased Florida State guys. Like it does not look good for Billy Napier. And I think the needle's starting to trend more towards him looking at FSU a lot more and it becoming really serious. And then with Cooper talking to people around that recruitment, it seems like Norvell on his trips last week was more focused on the commits. So I would consider the Chaminade trip more of a Jason Lopez trip than a Derek Cooper trip. I mean, again, you're still going to talk to the kid, and I think he still did pretty briefly from what I've heard, but I think the focus wasn't on him as much as we thought. So that kind of shifts it a little bit. And Wilt Fong put a thing out about visitors this weekend. Cooper will be taking his official visit to Texas this weekend. I can't remember off the top of my head who they're playing, but that will probably move the needle back towards Texas. And in the thing, Wilt Fong said that – sorry, I'm blanking for a second. He said that it'll be a tough pull from Texas and didn't even mention Miami.
Sam Houston, by the way.
Sam Houston. So that's You're good. Texas dub and us worrying about Arch sucking again because he didn't put up enough stats.
Yep.
He said that Texas will be a tough pull or like tough to pull him from Texas now, and didn't mention Miami or FSU like it has been the last few weeks. So that feels like a shift in general to me, and I think it starts with that Norvell visit was more focused on the commits.
I don't want to go out straight out and say that FSU is accepting defeat in this one, because that's not what this is. But
no, I think you're just more likely to get Baker, and you should.
Yeah, and I think I'm speaking more so just like the Chaminade trip to go and see Lopez. The fact that we both heard that trip was more about keeping the guy that's already in your boat rather than trying to reel in the fish outside of the boat, I think is interesting. And that's why I say I don't think, Norvell is giving up on recruiting Cooper or anything like
and
that.
He's still probably going to go to the Miami game. Like,
right.
That's
and you're still recruiting him, but I think it's an interesting shift. And maybe this wouldn't have been the same way last year or the year before that, where you're just so hyper-focused on the big guy that you ignore what you already have. Would you agree with that? Like that's kind of almost like a shift in like how they would have approached that. So, and I'm happy to see that, because I think Lopez is one that you would absolutely be thrilled to keep. That is one that's going to continue to be a battle down the stretch. Florida State's having a great season. So is Miami. That October 4th game is going to have major implications, but we knew that. I find it interesting that they are that, and the entire coaching staff went and visited almost all of their commitments this week or this past.
Yeah, and you saw that in the Atlanta area too, with him going to see like Whitley Cadeau and stuff like that, right? Like it was pretty clear. And Tony White went and saw Chauncey. Like it felt like the main flip target they went and saw was Carson Baker. Like that was but also Xavier Tiller, it goes to Langston Hughes. So like it's a whole thing. Like you were gonna go see him anyway.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that's calculated? Like, is that a calculated approach, or is that are we making too much of this? Are we building a mountain out of a molehill here? Molehill. Molehill.
I thought you were about to get to Mobile, Alabama with the
Mobile, Alabama.
But I think so. I don't think reading too much into it, but it makes, because we always said, and I think it became clear after the Alabama games, we're like, oh, there's gonna be such a big recruiting boom. Like this is gonna be insane. No. They're going to go and add what they need to add. I don't think there's going to be
I think they like what they have.
Yes, I think it's a good class, and you're going to add, like 3 to 4 maybe if you can, maybe 5. But like
we're at what, 23 right now? They're at 23.
Yes, so you're making maybe 3 to 4 additions, and I think those additions will be big additions, like a Carson Baker or like a big game guy. But it also doesn't feel like, I know we talked a lot about Latimer too as a running back option. That one seems to have cooled. Like I don't know about cool, but it just doesn't seem like much is happening there, right? Like it was, maybe he'll show up on the Miami visitors list, and that would make it seem like something, but it just seems pretty quiet there. I feel like the Carson Baker has become their guy for running back.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that has a lot to do with Florida not having a great start to the season, Florida State having a good start to the season, and then saying, hey, if there's a better chance that we can flip a more talented, more a better fit for our scheme in Carson Baker, then you go after that, and you're content if that doesn't actually happen, and then maybe you circle back later.
And we've talked about it. They don't need a running back in this class.
No,
like it's nice to have, but it's not a need. It's not something, and I think they value it from a money perspective because just what this Gus Malzahn offense is and what you want to do. And I think Carson Baker or Derek Cooper would both be good tandems with Usman Chroma down the road. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, if you miss on them, you miss on them. That's why I feel like, and maybe we'll talk about it later, there's one guy who's a little lower rated that they might be going after, but it's not a guy you expect a lot out of. Like you can add those guys on if you want them, if you think they'll be okay, but it's not huge investments like these other guys.
Yeah. We'll be going through some of the other guys that are flip targets for Florida State. But before we do that, do want to introduce you to a new sponsor to the Warpath, Andy Ludicky from MyPerfectFranchise.net. Are you sick of your job? Are you ready to leave the corporate rat race? Do you want to diversify or build wealth, leave a legacy? Do you have a job and maybe want a side hustle, well, Andy can help. Andy is a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner, and he helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, passions, and financial requirements. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help you if you have any questions about business ownership. He also loves college football as well, so the conversation can be a lot of fun. Give him a call or head to myperfectfranchise.net to learn more. You can text or call Andy at 404-973-9901. Again, that's 404-973-9901. Thank you to Andy and myperfectfranchise.net for being a sponsor of the Warpath. Matt, there have been some huge changes in college football, or at least approved changes in college football over the last 48 hours or so. And I can't remember if it was 2 weeks ago where you came on the show and said breaking news, they might be going to one transfer portal window. Well, here we are a couple weeks later, and that was approved by the NCAA. Now there is going to be only one transfer portal window. It's looking like it's going to be in January. The exact length of that window has not been decided yet, but this is pretty substantial news, Matt, for roster management, player retention, that entire nucleus, which is ultimately the most important part of college football.
Yeah, and they're also making all of December a dead period. So guess what, Nick? We get holidays. We get to we get to celebrate, and it's also the date is looking like January 2nd, right? From a lot of things I've read from like Pete Nakos's, Ross Dellingers of the world, which means you get New Year's Eve too. So like, what? We get a life. Wow, but it's I love it. I think it's a good. I think it's good for the calendar in general. Where it gets like icky or weird is looking at the academic calendar, which I actually haven't looked up yet for FSU. Let's look it up now, because kids have to. There is still a school element of this, right? And FSU's classes, I don't know what it is. We're both looking it up, I think, but it's normally the spring starts like January 6th. And if it's a 10-day window going from the 2nd to the 12th, I guess you have to look at add drop too. But after add drop, it gets complicated to add kids. So that is a big thing.
Unless you're a graduate transfer.
Unless you're a graduate transfer, yes. So that changes it too. But it's let's see, it looks like again January 6th, 2025. Or wait, that's this past year. Whatever. But that's around the time. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the dates do with that. That's my only question, because the dates haven't been decided yet. They decided they eliminated the spring, and it will just be one in January to kind of be like, so there's less opt-outs. That's the whole point of it, and then you don't have kids leaving in the spring in that weird area, and overpaying in the spring like everyone does. I love it. We did talk about it, but I really like that this is actually happening.
I am too. I don't know about you. I'm kind of surprised that they got this done so quickly. Like, I figured this would have been like a next year thing. Like, you bring it up this year, you get through this year, and then kind of when the recruiting calendar kind of flips over. And for those who don't know, that recruiting calendar flips over sometime in the middle of July. I think this year it was July 12th. So that middle point in July is when the next class or the next year, specifically for football, that's when the communication between coaches and players becomes genuine and real, and like they can actually reach out to players. That is when that class cycle starts. So I was kind of expecting the decision to come around then, to where, okay, you're starting with that class, that transfer portal is going to happen. But no, they got it done early. It's going to be happening this January. I absolutely love this. I think the industry is in a place where the past two transfer portal windows, specifically in the fall, you and I probably have both heard the same things. Oh my God, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be the biggest transfer portal window that ever was. And the first time around definitely was not. This past year, maybe a little bit more so. I mean, just with like Nico Amilava and that whole like quarterback situation, John Mateer going from Washington State to Oklahoma.
OU.
Like there were a bunch of big guys in the portal this year. Casey Concepcion going to Texas A&M. Like you could go on forever, right? I'm glad that they accelerated this timeline to make the transfer portal more containable. And, you know, we're still building the plane while flying it here. then not everything's going to be perfect, but I am happy to see progress in this area because let's be honest, the transfer portal was getting out of hand and it was getting, for lack of a better term, abused by maybe some bad parties on rosters across college football.
Yeah. And now I think you're going to see less transferring, right? Like in general, because now you have the house settlement that moves players getting paid into the actual university paying them. So and then you're seeing more multi-year deals. You have less time to go. Like there's only, I feel like it'll end up being more than 10 days, but I hope it's 10 days. But like, and if it's only 10 days,
does it need to be longer than 10 days? Like maybe
I don't think so. And then that's also where you get up against the academic calendar where it makes it complicated in January. So I think you're going to have to do 10 days, but we'll see. Those 10 days will be wild though. Yeah. We'll say, we just said, oh, they're not all that crazy, but those will be wild 10 days. Like you're going to have to build your whole roster in a month.
Yeah. And then you go into junior days a couple of weeks after.
Yeah.
And
that will be interesting because junior days are normally in January.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that'll mess that up and those will move back to, here's what I think will happen long term. And this is me theorizing.
Yeah.
No more spring ball. It becomes summer ball that goes straight into fall camp or end of spring ball going straight into fall camp. And so that would put all your portal visit weekends are in January. Junior days move to February.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I'm
just thinking about this here and working through it. I wonder if that's even possible to where, because you would be, I feel like if that's the case, if you're going to, so are you suggesting or theorizing that you mash your official visit season with your summer practices kind of around that same time? Is that even something that's doable? Or
I don't know. I didn't think it through. I just thought about it.
Or would you go back to having, alternatively, you go back to having your official visit dates in the fall? Because what also is changed is that you cannot get an official written offer from a university now until like November 15th or something like that. It's not August 1st anymore.
I thought it was August 1st to November 15th.
No. November 15th is the new first date. August 1st was the initial, at least as my recollection is that August 1st was the original date where you could start getting written offers from your university.
Yeah, that's when they all post them and stuff like that. Yeah.
So now I think they are pushing that back. Is my recollection. We can edit this in post if that's incorrect. But yeah. So I mean, we're both fans of this. It makes the schedule much better for the coaching staff.
Yeah, for
makes
coaches,
our schedule much better.
You have your signing day, and then you go to you have playoff bowl season, and then you have portal. Like it's actually dropped off, right? Like it's not, you're not doing 500 things at once while preparing for a playoff or conference championship game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of transfers, and this is kind of insane. It's kind of insane that we're talking about this in
week 4.
Week 4 of the college football season. But UCLA and Virginia Tech fired their coaches. Deshaun Foster and Brent Pry are out of there. Is it Brent Pry? Did I just?
No, you got it right. You got it.
I? Because my brain just said, "Wait, did I just?"
You thought Brent Key?
Use Brent Key and Pry together. Anyway, those guys are out of there and well deserved. I mean, Virginia Tech losing by multiple touchdowns to Old Dominion. Enter Sandman can't save that program right now. And UCLA has just looked god awful in multiple different ways. So with coaches being fired, there is a 30-day window that players on the active roster can announce their intentions to enter the transfer portal. And to my knowledge, or to my memory, Matt, I cannot remember a coach getting fired this early into the season to where you have guys that could preserve their red shirt and then transfer. Like normally these firings happen much later, to where I guess players are a little bit more stuck in terms of what they can do. But I'm not sure how many guys have already hopped in the portal for either side, but one of them, defensive back,
I think
the
it's
defensive back from Virginia Tech, whose name is escaping me at the moment, hopped in the portal.
I got you. Dante Lovett.
He's hopped in the portal. Florida State has been in contact with him in the portal and a bunch of other schools. I think there was like 25 separate schools that contacted Lovett in the portal.
I think I didn't think of the redshirt thing, but it makes sense. But also, why wouldn't you play one more game? Because you have the one more game. I just don't know. I think it's if you already have your red shirt, there's no reason for you to enter the portal right now.
Well, I mean, it's the same reason why you opt out of the rest. You opt out of your bowl game. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to suffer an ACL tear playing game 4 and then redshirting and then being injured and then having that affect your chances of another program taking a chance on you. It's the same kind of mentality there. That's just a happy accident of this happening in week 4 of the season.
Yeah. Here's something funny: is Dante Lovett is the number 1 overall player in the transfer portal right now.
Out of how many?
Out of 3. So,
Florida State's after a big one here.
The number we have put Florida State is in it for the number 1 player in the transfer portal currently.
Clickbait it up, baby.
It's weird because Florida State reached out. I want to get this out of the way first. Yeah. Florida State, according to Pete Nakos, did reach out to him. We don't know how serious this is. I think they reach out to like most portal guys more than we think, even if we don't know about it, like as preliminary interest and just to have it out there. So I wouldn't call it serious yet. I would wait to see if he sets a visit to Florida State, it's serious, and we'll know. But it's I think it's a wait and see. This might just be preliminary stuff of, yeah, man, like we're watching your film, we're evaluating you. Like it could literally just be as simple as that. Yeah. So I watch Dante Lovett, but don't watch it too closely right now. Enjoy the season, man. Like just
that's really my question. And I'm interested to get your take on this because I think it's good conversation. If you're Mike Norvell and your team is off to a 2-0 start, probably going to move to 3-0 this week. You beat Virginia, you're 4-0 going into Miami. Your defense is playing hard for Tony White. You like the pieces that you have. You're mostly healthy. Do you dare publicly recruit somebody that's in the transfer portal in the middle of the season?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. That's weird.
What do you do? And that goes back to what I was saying about, hey, I don't think this has ever happened this early before. So what are the kind of guidelines and the benchmarks that you go by in terms of how you want to handle this? Because as I said earlier in the show, talent acquisition and player retention are the bread and butter of how you build a perennial powerhouse year after year. And some programs do it better than others. Some programs have oopsie years like Florida State did last year, but of course there was more wrong with Florida State than just that. But if you're Mike Norvell and if you're reaching out to this Virginia Tech defensive back, how publicly do you do it, first of all? Do players even pay attention to that if they're on the team, or do they just block it out and not even care? Or do you risk a situation where a player on the team sees that and says, Coach, you're reaching out to somebody at my position. What's going on here? So you're evaluating somebody before the season is even halfway over, with the prospect of them potentially being added in a fall transfer portal window. How do you navigate that as a football coach? Because to me, that is fascinating. This is almost unprecedented. I don't know how you navigate that.
So I understand what you're saying, but it's a little bit like he's not eligible right away. Like,
right.
But
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, because he's not even eligible right now. He can't come into let's say that he commits. I don't know. He can't enroll in classes because classes are going on right now. But let's say that he commits to Florida State and he gets here. How awkward must that be for somebody on the, like, there's a difference between adding people in the offseason and making the room better, or bringing a guy in midseason and saying, you're basically actively admitting, hey, we need help at this position. I'm bringing in somebody else at this position. You know,
I think it's, if you're Norvell, I don't think there's anything you can do with it being public or not. Like, it'll get out, right? If the kid's on campus, it'll get out. So there's nothing you can do there. I don't know. I think in general, your message would be like, well, it's like the pros, man. Like you're not doing good enough. We have to look other places. And if you're a player, you should know that by now. Like it's not like Norvell hasn't recruited over guys every portal window. Like it's Jerry Wilson. Jerry Wilson came in the spring, mid camp, I guess you can call it. And now he's starting. He's starting right away. Like you'd think Quindarius Jones didn't raise an eyebrow at that at the time. He had to, because he was probably a projected starter until he came, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
So it's so I think you just do it like normal, and you say like, man, this is the way the game is now. It's going to be like that when you grow up and you go to the NFL, if you're lucky enough to go to the NFL. So we're going to, if we like the kid, we think he's good, and we don't think we should miss on him. So we're giving it our best shot, and this is what my job. That is my job as a coach and a person building the roster and having to look for the future. That's what I have to do.
Well, I guess the difference is that one's happening in the offseason and one is strangely and bizarrely happening in the middle of the season. I don't know if I'm just making it more than it actually is.
I think the kid should have played one more game. You have one more game, you can put more film out there. I don't. Yeah. I think the 30-day window, and I'm probably going to keep the 30-day window for coaches being gone, but I think that's for like more of like when Nick Saban decided.
Oh, it's absolutely to protect the players,
it's like,
for sure.
It's for that time of year. They're like, this is a weird time of year to enter the portal. Why not get one more game?
Word to Conrad Husky.
Yeah. Well, he's not even.
Who, by the way, found himself at Oregon State. Who found himself at Oregon State?
Yeah, well, he's not even officially in the portal, though. He should still be here taking classes, I would think. God, or no, he got kicked off before the team before that.
Talk about landing from what would be a good situation to just an awful situation in Corvallis.
Hey, man. Hey,
Oregon State.
That's a program that made DJU look good.
I don't know how they were able to do that. God bless them. God bless them. Well, it's not just transfers that are experimenting or not experimenting. That's not the right word. Are experiencing. That's the correct word. A departure from UCLA and Virginia Tech. A bunch of high school commitments decommitting from both. Florida State in touch with a couple of them. Obviously, the name that everybody circles out of the group is four-star offensive tackle Johnny Jones, who decommitted from UCLA. I think you asked us a couple of days ago, hey, who's the most likely person to end up in a Seminoles uniform out of those that just decommitted? We all probably would have said Johnny Jones. There's a relationship there between Gus Malzahn, Herb Hand, and Johnny Jones that extends well before they even got to Florida State. That's a long-running relationship. Obviously, he officially visited Florida State, officially visited Ole Miss, Colorado, and UCLA apart from them, obviously. You would have thought that Florida State would have been the first place that he went, but it just hasn't been the case. It's been really, really quiet on that front. And a couple of other SEC programs have actually been name dropped as potential suitors for Johnny Jones after his decommitment, Matt.
Yeah, do you want me to go through the list of schools that Hayes Fawcett posted?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go down the entire list.
So, obviously, yes, Florida State is on there. He said that was a place he wants to visit. But I honestly think, like, before he decommitted from UCLA, it felt like Florida State was the only name ever mentioned, right? Yeah. Like, it was the first name that came to even national guys.
Now there are other teams, which is fascinating.
Yeah, now it seems like they're just middle of the pack and nothing. So it feels like that's where you look at it and you wonder, like, how serious really is this? Yeah. Right? They got Mississippi State, Penn State, Mizzou, Tulane, FSU, LSU, Georgia, Colorado, Oklahoma. And out of those, the four he said he wanted to take visits to was Missouri. And that's one that I think was behind the scenes talking to him a lot more than we thought. Like looking through his profile, there was a few stories from the Mizzou beat on him as one of their top flip targets. But again, it was Florida State and Mizzou kind of hidden there, right? Like it was mainly Florida State. And you feel like if Florida State was that serious as we originally thought, he would have already flipped by now, right? Like it would have been a natural thing. Like, well, here we go. So, Missouri, Oklahoma, Penn State, and FSU were the four he gave quotes to Hayes on. So I would assume that Mizzou is probably the top of that list, considering they were one of those teams contacting during the UCLA commitment. But it just seems like that's not as serious as we originally thought.
Which is interesting because Florida State needs a true tackle. And I wonder what that
Yeah.
says, how they feel about Jones, that they aren't the first program. And not to say that they aren't the first, but in terms of the listed programs, they're not the first school that's knocking on the door. It's a couple of
No.
SEC programs.
Yeah.
So I wonder, you go through the conversation of, okay, we badly need an offensive tackle. Well, how badly do we need an offensive tackle?
Yeah.
Maybe not that offensive tackle. And maybe their eval on him and their grade on him isn't as high as some recruiting services, ours included. That's something that's extremely interesting to me.
And you wonder where, like, is this where we see the Javion Cooper push come out more? Like maybe Aaron Thomas, they circle back around, and there's a few others there. I don't think who's the one who's coming to Arkansas from Buford, Ben.
Mabenga. Ben Mabenga.
I don't think last time I talked to him, they pretty much cut everything off when he committed to Arkansas. So it's, again, that's also a school that's having coaching issues or could have a coaching change. And well, I'm kind of waiting to see who shows up at this point. When I say it's been quiet, I can't for the life of me figure out who these other names could be right now. So let's see who shows up for Miami weekend. Yeah. I think that'll be very telling. We know right now Cooper is one of those.
Normally the visitors list pops in the few hours leading up to us recording this show.
No visitors list yet. But we know a few names on there.
Right. You want to rattle them off real quick while we're on the topic?
Yeah, the main two, there was supposed to be the defensive lineman who they offered, Frederick, but he is now going to Miami for a second straight week, which is interesting, and that's probably pretty telling in that recruitment.
He's from there, isn't he? Or is he a Georgia kid?
Yeah, I think he's from – I want to say South Florida because he was an FAU commit before that. Mm-hmm. So, but the main one is we say Yahya God.
Yahya. Let's go Yahya.
Let's call him God.
I don't know that I want to stroke his ego like that. But you do you. Which we were going to talk about eventually. 3-star defensive end Yahya God, who was.
That's right now the biggest name that we know is coming.
Yeah.
And then you have a running back too, who we said we talked about, but we can talk about God for a little bit. I think, that's an interesting one. He's a pretty good fit for Tony White's scheme. He was supposed to come in the spring. That wasn't able to make it. I can't remember if he just couldn't make it or if that's when the tragedy on campus happened. But
it was before that. So he didn't make it for the junior day. A couple of weeks later, he pulled a commitment to SMU, just a random out of the hat commitment to SMU, and he locked it down. Which of course, when he unlocked it down and immediately flipped to UCLA, it was like, okay, well that's eye opening. And now you're back on the market again. I just don't know how much FSU actually likes this kid. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd have to check with sources, but I think that in terms of some of the guys that they're after right now, your Chris Carbons of the world, who you're trying to flip. Obviously, Trenton Henderson is a name that we're hearing more and more as a name that Florida State is continuing to chip away out and play the long game with. The Swedish kid, Henrik Ross, you got Cameron Wilson, you got Jarius Rogers. Like they're different kinds of players for one, but I don't know how they feel about God compared to the guys that they've been courting for much longer.
We kind of have to see where that goes, and those are things we find out when we talk to him after the visit. Really, this visit was scheduled before Foster got fired and he decommitted from UCLA. So it was actually set in stone the week before that. We didn't find out until about 30 minutes after he decommitted when I texted him. But it was. I asked him when it was scheduled because it would be pretty interesting if he went called FSU, said, "Hey, can I come this weekend? I'm about to commit from UCLA, or I just decommitted from UCLA." No, it was he was coming and then decommitted from UCLA after the firing. So it will it's an interesting one. I don't think he's bad. Like I think he's a good player, and I could see him. I could see why they want him. I think this is a Tony White one that he likes, and maybe behind the scenes they've been talking more because he did try to visit. It's not like it's one that came out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, I just not worry. I just wonder about like the type of prospect that he is in terms of like his skill set. It's not exactly what I don't think they need. Like he's more of a strong side guy, is my understanding from watching his tape and everything. That's just not what they need. Now I know White and Papuchis and Knight and and pretty much everybody on that defensive staff is going to preach to you about versatility and being able to play multiple positions. That's not primarily where they need a dude, though. They need a jack linebacker, edge rusher. Like that is
linebacker.
So it's like I think Chris Carbon is a better fit for that specifically. And, you know, he does have a similar body type to God. He's a little bit faster, more athletic. I don't know. I feel like he's further down in the totem pole, but you know, we could talk to him on Saturday and say, no, you know, I've been in contact with FSU for a while. They seem to really, really like me, yada, yada, yada. Something that we're going to have to monitor moving forward. We were talking about offensive tackles earlier with Johnny Jones. Thomas Wilder, 4-star offensive tackle that was formerly committed to Virginia Tech, does not have a Florida State offer right now, but Florida State has been in contact with him, and there is potential interest in coming on a visit, Matt. So is this something that you feel like Florida State will and can capitalize on, or maybe is this on the outside of the ballpark or on the outside looking in? There's a number of closer schools to him, your Penn States, your Marylands, that have already previously offered him, that I think are the first programs that you go looking towards in terms of who may be the best fit for him if they have an opening, if they have a spot left. What are the chances that Florida State moves on this and actually makes a push to bring him on campus here?
I think he'll officially visit. I don't think he'll unofficially visit. I feel like it'll just be one main visit later on in the year, like a Virginia Tech, coincidentally, or Pitt or Wake Forest.
Watch while we demolish your old team.
It's not even his old team anymore. They don't have the coach. Yeah. But it's I mean, they need an offensive tackle. That's not a secret. I think that's a missing part of this class. And in my opinion, it's not like running back where you can get away without it. Like, I think we need to see him get an offensive tackle, and it's good to have more options. And this is one we'll see. If he gets on campus, I think he does want to get on campus. He seemed pretty enthusiastic about that when I was talking to him. So, or like DMing with him pretty briefly. So I think they'll get him there, and it's a wait and see situation. Like a lot of these, get on campus and it'll be serious. And I think he will. I honestly, I trend towards him visiting more than I don't.
Okay.
I don't have much to say on it. It's just because, so like I said, it's been so quiet this week, man. It's been hard to get anything.
Hey, we've been going for almost 45 minutes now. We are going to close out the show soon, though. You do have a quick note on Kavion Bryant visiting Texas Tech. What's kind of the latest coming out of that recruitment?
Yeah, he visited Texas Tech last weekend. He is going to do his Texas visit this weekend, like expected. I noticed he's going to SMU October 4th now. He has a visit set of Miami weekend, right? Miami's first week of October.
Right. Yeah.
So that's off. Again, things can change, but it looks like that's off the table now. Sam Spiegelman.
So he's not going to SMU on October 4th, or he is going to
I think he is. He is.
Okay.
So it's so it looks like that we were kind of hoping to see him for Miami, but it looks like that's not going to happen. Texas Tech visit went well from all things considered. For what I've been reading, Sam Spiegelman has been on that recruitment amazingly. So yeah, so he go check out what he said. It seems like he thinks Texas Tech is leading at this point, which makes sense. It's the latest visit coming right off the visit. It's pretty clear they're the top of his board. They got a few big commitments last week, like Bryce Gilmore, to show while he was on campus. And, it's important for a quarterback to show you're going to have the big boys up front to protect them. And we also know Texas Tech isn't afraid to spend. So that's going to be a tough challenge for Florida State to get around. But he's going to visit Texas this upcoming weekend. We're actually we mentioned it last week, but I'm going out of town when we normally record next week. So I'm trying to get a bunch of beat writers or other recruiting writers on the show. I'm trying to get Justin Wells from Texas, Inside Texas on, then so we could talk about that visit with him, especially right after it happens. So, yeah, I think Florida State and Texas Tech are still your main competitors. Texas will try to get into that top tier this weekend, but I think in general it's going to be a Texas Tech Florida State battle to the end, and we give the slight edge to Tech currently.
Well, That is going to be one that Florida State is going to invest a lot in, and obviously there's a long way to go. He is going to make a commitment in October.
End of October. But also, I do want to say it's not someone on the board said like it feels like we're all in on him and have no backup plan. That is not the case. And I think we've made it pretty clear on the show throughout the show that that's not the case. You still have Trent Seaborn there. You have Logan Flaherty there. They're still after Jace Johnson, Texas A&M commit, who was supposed to come on campus for the Alabama game last second, couldn't come, but was supposed to. So they're still in contact there. Like yes, Kevion Bryant is your number one target, and that is very clear that he's your number one target. But don't for a second say that if we don't get him, there's no other option and all hell breaks loose. That's not the case.
Yeah, but you like to – I don't know how much college football 26 you've played recently, Matt, but you're definitely sending the house on Kevion Bryant. Repeatedly. That is your 5-star. You're putting all your points.
Do I feel lucky?
Lucky. Exactly.
I had no clue where that button was going to go, but it worked out.
Wait, so you pressed that button live on the air, not knowing what that was going to play, and you just thought, this is a good idea.
It says, do you feel lucky? So I figured it would be good when you're going after one guy.
Yeah, I suppose so. But hey, he's a Texas Tech lean right now, so there's that. We got a lot of really fun soundboards here that hey, if you're watching Warchant TV, they're all going to be on the post game show. So that's where you can find more of the funny stuff, the funny notes here.
And I do think recruiting will pick up as we get closer to Miami. Miami is going to be when the big bomb drops that we kept talking about that the Alabama game would bring. I knew that was coming.
He honestly, he queued it up for me. I hope you weren't listening with your speakers
in your car
really loud at home. Apologies in advance if that happens. Maybe we should just end the show in that case.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching the Warpath. Hopefully recruiting picks up next week. It's just the nature of the business. It ebbs and flows. And normally everything happens all at once, and then there's like a week or two of absolutely nothing. And it happens sometimes. But Kent State this weekend, there's going to be visitors there. You can find the visitors list on respective boards at theosceola.com and warchant.com, wherever you find your news for that kind of stuff. Miami game, they're obviously Virginia. They're going to be away for Virginia, but a couple weeks from now, as we get closer and closer to that Miami game, as Matt said, things are going to start picking up here. So you're going to want to stick to the Warpath. Yep. We're going to talk about all of it.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to try to get a bunch of other beat writers on. We're looking at UF and Texas. As I said Texas before, but we're also looking at getting UF on to kind of see what he has to say about where the state of UF is Billy Napier finally get fired or not, but on the state of those commits and maybe which ones are most likely that he could see going to FSU. So that'll be one thing. And where, hey, if you want to comment on this video, what other teams that you want to see that could be like Florida State flip targets, comment it, and I'll reach out to them to try to get them on next week, because it's going to be a full show of maybe 3 or 4 guys. So,
yeah. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching the Warpath. My name is Nick Carlisle with theosceola.com. That's Matt Liss there with Warchant. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all again here next week.